This 125-year-old prison has been the subject of debate from here to Madison, with Green Bay leaders calling for its closure, but few know what life is like inside. I'm your Alloway neighborhood reporter Carl Winter with what actually happens inside the walls of Green Bay Correctional Institution. The Wisconsin Department of Corrections says GBCI returned to normal operations at the end of last month, following the end of COVID-19 protocols. But inmates I've talked to since say it's anything but normal.
I haven't been out at all today. My door has not opened at all today.
Jose Bonilla has been incarcerated for more than 20 years, 10 of those here, convicted of shooting and injuring 2 men at a Milwaukee house party in 2004. Both inmates and former guards describe a number of chronic issues at GBCI, including food, mental health, staffing, and time out of cells.
These people aren't in here for missing Sunday school, okay? They've done, in some cases, some pretty heinous things, but at the same time, you treat them with respect to the best of your ability, and you take that approach day by day.
According to the DOC, inmates get at least 4 hours of recreation a week.
Like our recs. So our recs are being cut in half because they're not letting the amount of people that would normally go out with 2 tiers at a time. They're only letting 1 out at a time.
Bonilla's cellmate, Gatlin Bankin, has been in prison since 2021, convicted on drug charges. He says rec is often the only time inmates get out of their cells.
I haven't been to the servery in over 2 years. I have not been down there. There is no actual hot food that we get right out of the pan.
The DOC refutes this complaint about food, writing, quote, "For the most part, the meals are served hot. Bagged meals, which are not served hot, may be used on weekends or at other times," unquote. Jeff Hoffman was a corrections officer here for more than 20 years until he retired last year. He says the prison started serving more and more pre-packaged meals in the last decade.
We used to have like a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner meal that they would serve down in the dining hall. And that started disappearing after a while because we didn't have the proper staff to run it.
Longtime guard Joe Vertigan retired in 2020. He and Hoffman say many of the prison's issues are due to lower staff numbers and lower staff morale.
Yeah, the guy in the tower right now is here on his day off because he has to take his day off so he doesn't get forced into overtime he may not want here.
We took great pride in what we did. The last few years that I was there, most of us really, that had all gone.
Hoffman and Vertigan attribute the decline to a 2011 state law called Act 10. They say it caused corrections officers to quit or retire before they had to pay for their benefits. Last month, a judge in Dane County ruled Act 10 unconstitutional. The law aimed to address the state's budget deficit, and it limits collective bargaining for public workers. So I asked a state legislator who voted for Act 10 about the law. Do you think that was an unintended consequence of Act 10 and what the legislature envisioned for that law?
I don't think so. I think that, obviously we're in a tremendous workforce shortage right now in all areas, and certainly that extends to protective status.
Numbers prior to 2018 are not available, but in late 2023, 41% of corrections officers' jobs at GBCI were vacant. That number is down to 15% of jobs open since a new pay package was introduced in October of last year.
Dealing with mental illness is the biggest change I saw in the last 5 years, and it continues to this day. If a lot of inmates now don't get their way, they'll go to self-harm right away.
That's proven true. NBC 26 has obtained documents detailing 2 suicide attempts within the prison in 2021 alone. One of those attempts was by inmate Paul Lynch, convicted of first-degree attempt at homicide in 2015.
They're complacent, smug, combative, vindictive. I mean, it's just bad. There's no government here for their staff.
The former corrections officers admit relationships with inmates could be strained.
When they're active and their minds are busy and they're doing stuff with their hands, there's less time for idleness. And when they're idle and have nothing to do, that's when they start acting out and doing stupid things, like self-harm and assaulting staff when they get the chance.
And for inmates like Bonilla, the recent improvements have not come quickly enough.
I'm fortunate to have the support that I do. I'm fortunate to be as strong-minded as I am. But for those who don't have that, the guys who struggle with mental health issues that are undiagnosed. You know what I mean? That just come in and don't know how this should be. Like, this is torture. You know what I mean? On a mental level, this is torture.
Another issue the inmates told me about was a lack of addiction treatment. The DOC says GBCI is working on setting up a substance abuse disorder treatment program, which it says will open early next year. In Alloway, Carl Winter, NBC 26.